All right, welcome to my lesson on order of operations with rational numbers. So this isn't new because we have been doing order of operations. Remember that we use BEDMAS to help us remember the order. B stands for brackets, E stands for exponents, D stands for division, M for multiplication, A for adding, and S for subtracting. Remember that these two you do in order from left to right as they occur. So if a times comes before a divide, you do that. And again, adding and subtracting, you must work left to right. Okay, so we're going to follow the same procedure as we did before. We look at our question, we ask ourselves, are there any brackets? And in this case, there are two numbers in brackets, but nothing to do with inside of those. Are there any exponents? No. Is there division or multiplication? Yes, there is a multiplication question right here. So we complete that multiplication question. So it's going to become 3/4 plus. We look for opportunities to cross reduce. So we have a 1, that's fine. We have a 2, can't do anything there. Nothing can reduce, so we just multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. Then I'm left with an addition question. So I need to find a common denominator between 4 and 10. So I think we know we can always multiply the two denominators together and get a denominator of 40, but a lower one would be 20. So we're going to change those into 20s by multiplying by 5/5 and 2/2, which gives me 15/20 plus 6/20. And then I add my numerators and keep my denominator the same. Check my answer to see if it can be reduced, but it cannot. So my answer is 21/20. You could also say this is 1 1/20, but I tend to just always keep working with my improper fractions. Right, this one is decimals. We haven't worked with decimals a whole bunch, but we are going to just use our calculators to help us get through this. So again, we ask ourselves, are there brackets? And there is a question in the brackets here. Remember that when we have these questions where there is a fraction bar across the whole thing, it's implied brackets of the whole top and the whole bottom, so I can work simultaneously. So I am also going to do the division question up top, because that's what comes first, at the same time. So I'm going to take my calculator and do 4.2 divide negative 0.2 gives me negative 21. And then on the bottom, I'm doing negative 7.3 plus 8.6, and I get 1.3 squared. Okay, now the next question that I need to do is the exponent on the bottom, and on the top, I'm going to do the 0.67 subtract negative 21. So 0.67 subtract negative 21 on my calculator gives me 21.67, and 1.3 squared is 1.69. And lastly, I can just divide those two decimals. Now we're going to give our answer to the nearest tenth, because in the original question, most of them were given to the nearest tenth. So that's 12.8. All right, let's look now at question number 3. So again, we ask ourselves, are there brackets? And there are brackets, but nothing to do within them. There are no exponents. Then I see that there are two multiplication questions. So we're going to do those two multiplication questions. Now we can cross reduce here. So if I look, I've got a 3 on the bottom and a 3 on the top. A 2 on the top goes into 2 once and into 4 twice. Don't forget about your sign here, right? So this is 1 times -1, which is -1, over 1 times 2, which is 2. And on the second question, I can cross reduce the 2 with the 4 again. And so on the top, I have 1 times -2, which is -2, over 1 times 3, which is 3. So now I'm left with -1/2, take away -2/3. So I need common denominators. So I'm going to turn these into 6's by multiplying this one by 2/2 and this one by 3/3. So I have -3/6, take away -4/6. So now I look just at my top. -3 take away -4 becomes -3 plus 4, which is 1/6. Always check to see if it can be reduced, but that is already in lowest terms. All right, last example here. So again, we're looking for brackets. So you can see that I've got a big bracket over here on the right-hand side, and within that, I'm going to do the division question first. Okay, so I'm going to write down the stuff I'm not doing. Now remember, when we divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. So I change that into a multiplication question. Now I'm going to do that multiplication question. So I'm doing this. I look for opportunities to reduce. 3 goes into 3 once and into 6 twice. So I've got -4/5, take away 1/2. Okay, still working on that bracket. I've got a subtraction question in there. Oops, got a red pen. -1/2 cubed times, so I need common denominators here, so I'm going to make these into tens. So 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Multiply the other side by 5. So I've got -1/2 cubed times -8 take away 5 is -13/10. Now I'm going to cube. Remember our exponent rule, we give it to each thing. So -1 to the power of 3, -1 times -1 times -1 is -1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 times -13/10. Look for opportunities to cross reduce, but there are none. So I'm going to go -1 times -13 is +13/80. Now, the nice thing is that if you look for opportunities to cross reduce and you do that completely, your answer will always be in lowest terms when you multiply. All right, you can go ahead and do the practice questions now.